Let's try this again. Hey, beautiful people. It's April the 7th, 2015 at 3:01. We have just had a series of eclipses and some fantastic energies from the Easter portal, and I am just so blissing. I keep on wondering, if it ever ends, but every portal, every gateway that we go through, it just increases, and uh, the physical sensations they change as you go out throughout your ascension process. And I guess that's what this video, I can hear it coming in right now. That's what this video today is going to be about. It's kind of funny as I'm going to have to speak from my Archangel Michael side directly. The sword of truth, the tongue, the sword of truth. The blue sword of truth. Every time we have waves of persons waking up, and they're starting, what happens is they have opened their chakra system and their kundalini has arisen, and once it hits the crown chakra and they get into their Shakkti, they start having messages coming through and start talking and communicating to their higher levels of self, and playing on a more cosmic level, and not necessarily, you're still playing in that brain game at that point, but you're really starting to feel more into your heart, because you're learning how to feel. That's the whole point about what goes on with the kundalini experience, is you're learning how to feel the energy within the physical vessel that animates that vessel. But to activate, it's a totally different ballgame. It's the activation that is the ascension, and the activation is when you shift your consciousness out of that brain and into the heart. You slide into the heart, and you're feeling what's animating the body more than you're thinking about what's going on out there. And even when you activate your heart chakra, you're just in your heart more than 50% of the time, 51% of the time, than you are in your head. But every time we see these waves of persons, and really, I guess you could say this is still part of the first wave of ascension that's going on right now, but there's different parts of it. It's kind of like ripples. It's like if I were to take a stone and drop it in this bay right here, as those ripples went out, it wouldn't just be one ripple. It would be many ripples going out, boom, 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 boom. And that occurs, and I've watched it occur in the awakening process as well as the ascension process. And the ascension process is totally different from the awakening process. The awakening process takes you into your ascension process. And I had somebody get upset with me. It's like, why are you coming down on yoga people? I'm not coming down on yoga people. I am a yoga person, but I don't do so much of the physical yoga as I do the consciousness yoga. Yoga is simply about getting in touch with the higher self, or God, if you want to call it that, from the inside. It's about going inside. That's what consciousness yoga is about. Even the physical yogas, what I call yoga aerobics, even a lot of that is so you can learn to feel that which is within the vessel, and it's just taking you into your ascension process. Yoga is really just the beginning, and that's why I say that there needs to be a new book on ascension yoga, because this is what yoga was all about. It was taking you into the enlightenment process. And ascension is that inner enlightenment, the inside enlightenment process. And as you activate, which just once you hit Shakkti, you have to spiral back into the heart, or drop down. You can look at it as that. You're literally just feeling that sacred God spot in your heart, the sacred G spot. and it's a very orgasmic feeling. Anyway, there's been a lot of persons who are waking up, and I see this happening with every single wave of persons. They come in with these belief systems, BS, bullshit, and they say this is the way, which it's not. A belief system is of the brain. It's of the ego. It's just a mind game. It's not. Ascension is not about a mind game. Ascension is about shifting your mind, which is truly not part of the brain, because you can move your mind, your consciousness. The mind and the consciousness are one and the same. You can move your mind, your finger, to make it do this. You can move it out of your body and do astral projection. You can go within the body, within the sacred spot of the heart. You can go and meet others. You can send your energy to. Is where you place your consciousness, where you place your focus. If you ever think about somebody and try to project your energy there, that's where you're placing your focus. And this is Inner Harbor Airport. that name, it just came through, and as I rewatched the video, I realized how perfect the name for this place is. So anyway, Ascension is about placing your consciousness within the heart. And I was talking to Meline LaFont this morning, and we didn't speak on video, but we were chatting on Skype, and she was talking about what she's experiencing as she's going through her ascension, and she's having that tingly feeling all over the body, and it's very orgasmic. I've always called my experience of ascension a never-ending, perpetual cosmic orgasm. Because it doesn't end. When you activate, it just goes on and on and on, and ever increases. There's no way to describe to anybody what it feels like until they get there. And then as you're going through your process, you're always going to have it more intense and more intense. And Meline was describing something that I felt some time ago, and it's as the heart chakra starts activating, and then all the other chakras start activating, they spin. And when they spin, you can really feel that light activating within the physical body. You can really feel your enlightenment. And it's at that point that you really are not needing tools to channel messages. You know, many people channel messages by going into hypnotic state or allowing another being, trance state, to come through, or to use pendulums and other tools to channel messages. Once you get to ascension and you're enlarging your field in each different chakra and each different higher step is a connection to higher levels of self, and on multiple layers. I mean, multiple dimensional layers, as well as is just like on a collective earth scale, or a cosmic solar scale, or a galactic scale, or a universal scale, or a multi-universal scale, or a prime creator scale. There's always going to be different levels of that as you activate your chakra system. Now, Meline was describing what it feels as she's feeling her initial 7 chakras light up, and they start spinning. One goes this way, the next one goes this way, the next one goes this way, and it really starts from the heart and goes outward from the heart, because you've switched from being in your consciousness, from being inside the head, into that sacred spot of the heart. You've shifted your mind. The mind and the brain are two totally different things. When the mind is in the brain, you're in your ego. When the mind shifts to your heart, you're channeling the field. You're channeling the higher levels of self. Your light body's expanding, your chakras are spinning, you're feeling that bliss. Each different activation and portal you go through ever expands it, and it just goes on and on and on. And so as Meline was describing her sensations, and I remember feeling that clearly. See, this is all having to do with the transfiguration of the vessel and the transfiguration of the physical body as you're turning it into the light body. The sensations will be, and the transfiguration process, the actual Ascension Initiation process, or as Sandra Walter calls it, the Ascension Integration process, the experience will be the same in the transfiguration of the physical vessels for each and every one of us. It's a step-by-step process. It is mechanics. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There is a way of how the light being inside the physical form is being built. How you're how you're processing is a step by step method of building the light body. It's of going through your ascension. The experience each one of us have and how we get there is what is different. But the process, what is actually going on in the transformation and transfiguration of the body, is going to be the same. And so, I was listening to Meline and what she was saying, and what I've been experiencing ever since I just took my last initiation, which is going into the magnetics. Every cell within my body has been spinning like it's its own chakra for a long time. That happened that happened when I started turning into the star at that 8th initiation. But as in the 8th initiation is when you go spherical. You're actually stepping into your galactic initiations. You've advanced past the ascension column, which is vertical and still linear, and that's 5D, and you're stepping into the 6th dimensional spherical initiations. And the 6th dimensional spherical initiations, you start having 6th dimensional spherical consciousness coming in. And when you've got messages coming in, how do you describe a spherical message? Because there's layers going this way, there's layers going that way, there's layers going this way and that way, and they're beaming out in all different directions. Only someone who has experienced that before can comprehend spherical data packs. And that's what it's like when we're getting our messages on that 6th dimensional and higher levels. It's a packet of information that, like DNA, could be read in multiple streams, but like a crystal. Think about how a crystal stores information. It's not necessarily linear, and then in any direction it could be read and processed in different ways. It's just like if you believe in the Bible, you can read the Bible in various levels and various and you can do this with any holy book. You can read it at various times in your level of comprehension, and you're going to have a brand new and different understanding of the meaning of that each and every time you read it. So it's a multi-dimensional set of holy books that are out there that are all talking about this process, talking about the process of enlightenment, of mastery, and it talks about all the other masters out there. Okay, so back to the spherical consciousness. Yeah, you have spherical data packs, which are kind of like the programming of a crystal coming in, and as you receive the data pack, what you understand at first, you're assimilating or integrating these data packs and levels of information, but your level of consciousness at first is only reading it into a singular direction. It's not like reading the whole thing. It's just like a CD or a DVD. You can, just like on this computer, if I was to drop in a CD or a DVD on this computer, I could advance to different parts of it and read it in different ways. And but it's even more complicated with spherical understanding, because a DVD or a CD is just linear. But it's still the same concept. But if you could take a 2D CD or DVD that is being read on that two-dimensional level, and you turn it into a 3D form like a crystal, then you can start understanding how the data packs are being read in multiple directions. So anyway, that's what happens when you're starting to step into that spherical consciousness of the 8th initiation, after you have formed the ascension column and it's vertical, and then you burst out into the star that you are. Now, what is happening once you go into that phase of initiations that's spherical, that star that you are, and what I was describing to Meline this morning, is I feel every atom within every cell of my physical vessel spinning and lighting up like every atom is its own little chakra. And every atom and the electrons around those atoms within my physical vessel is connected to all that is spherically, just like rays of a star, rays of a sun. It's just going out, and it broadcasts out in every direction, no matter where it is. And when that happens, all you have to do is to think of or perceive anything you wish to communicate with, just like a bird flying by, and you can start having a conscious communication with that. You don't need the pendulums. You don't need cards to read the future. You don't need to play in that fourth dimensional astral game that's going on there. And it all begins with going through your Kundalini, opening that crown chakra, hitting Shakkti. You're starting to have this higher level of consciousness. But what do you do with it? You have to circle it back into the heart. The heart starts spinning. It activates. The other chakras start activating. They expand 7 times. Boom, to the outside of the body. The ascension chakra activates. You go vertical with it, and then boom, you blow up into a star. And then it's pressurizing, and boom, blowing up to a bigger star. Boom, blowing up to a bigger star. And it's because every atom within every cell is lighting up like chakras. And there's chakras to the outside of the body. I've described this many times. I can feel the chakras on the tops of my hands, on my shoulders, and back of my head, way out here. And when you start communicating with the field, when you've shifted that consciousness into the heart, then a lot of times people look at me like, you're not looking at me in the eye. Well, I'm in here. I'm in my pineal gland, which is being projected on my pituitary gland, and I'm seeing all you. Though you see my eyes open, I'm seeing from in here. And a lot of times when I'm looking directly at somebody, what happens is I take on the energy of that person, and the question that they've asked has disrupted my communication. And so a lot of times I'm just glancing just a little bit to the side of them as I'm seeing whatever it is that's coming from my field back in through my heart and being broadcast through the computer that's the brain. And it's not like I'm not thinking about anything. It's a flow from the field back out. I heard recently that as people in the yoga communities are waking up, they're talking about how food brings you to those higher levels of vibration. And I've been reading how people saying standing on your head will bring you, because it's sending the blood to the head. These things are good prepping tools, but it has nothing really to do with consciousness. That has to do with the physical form. And the consciousness is the mind that has to shift into the heart and activate that spiritual chakra. These are intangible. The energy body is intangible. It's spiritual. When people are talking about standing on their head and allowing the blood flow to come to their brain, that's physical. When people are talking about eating food, that's physical. That's how you maintain the physical vessel, but it is not spiritual. There's nothing that's going to bring you into your ascension other than shifting your consciousness out of your brain and into your heart. That's period. Archangel Michael, sword of truth, cutting through the bullshit. To take care of the physical vessel is a wonderful thing, because it is the temple. It's the temple for the spirit to inhabit. But that there were people years, I guess that was about 2 years ago, I called them the food Nazis because they were really attacking me, because they were asking me if I was vegetarian or vegan, and I have been several times in my life, but no, I'm not. And I'm not going to claim that I am. They said, you're not going to ascend because, well, I've already been through my ascension process. I've been teaching the ascension process before I ever even heard anybody else teaching the ascension process. There wasn't anybody else out there before me. Joshua Stone wrote several books about ascension in the 1990s as he was going through his process, but I did not read them until after I'd taken my 7th initiation and I'd formed my ascension column. But he's not here to talk about that anymore. And I'd already gotten to my 7th initiation, which was his maximum level, before I ever even read his work. I'd already been describing the process, and when I read his books, he's describing the same process. Now, I'll tell you, food, it can help keep, food does have vibration, yes. When you ingest it, it will give you a vibration, but that vibration isn't anywhere close to the shifting of your consciousness out of the brain and into the heart. There's just no comparison. When your heart chakra spins, there's nothing. I mean, most people can't handle it, and they go back into the brain because they feel that they're going to lose themselves, and that's part of the process right there. When your heart chakra starts spinning, you're going to feel sick. It's going to be so much light that you're going to feel nauseated. You're going to feel like you might go crazy, because you're used to being in your head and thinking about things rather than just going with the flow and allowing things to manifest. You're going to feel that if you're in traffic driving a vehicle, that you're getting ready to have an accident because you're in your heart and not in your head. It's a process of getting used to being in your heart, and the ego is going to fight you all along the way. So is, and as your frequency increases when you start that activation, so is your irritability of others who are choosing to be in the victimized states, and your vibrations are not going to match. That's when that death of the old life really truly unfolds. The dark night of the soul unfolds right at that point, because you're transitioning from an old way of being that you've been for many, many thousands of lifetimes into a new way of being. You have not been operating. There's a lot of people out there that say they operate from their heart, but they don't understand what it's like to live within the heart and to not have the brain chatter. That's another symptom. When you're in your heart, there's no monkey mind. All that goes away. And when you're in your heart and you've really gone through that activation process. And see, when you're going through your Kundalini process and your chakras are opening, you have this drunk on God feeling. That's what it is. That's the partner who I was with and activated by. When I began my activations, I'd gone through the Kundalini process so many times, and I'd achieved Shakkti so many times. But what happens is, until you shift out of the head and into the heart, then you just have open chakras that can be turned off like a light switch. When crap hits your life, then those chakras will close up. The whole point of Ascension is about turning that nuclear power plant on where it can't ever turn it off. And it's just like nuclear fuel rods. When they come into contact with each other, you cannot shut that process down of the interaction of the electrons between the nuclear fuel rods unless you separate those nuclear fuel rods. It's going to constantly be in an energetic state. And the thing is about activation, you can't shut it down. It's a runaway train. And so you just get used to going on, continuing with the process. Some people might get to certain points and want to hang out there because they don't want to move so quickly through it. Again, all this depends on how much you focus upon it. I've heard newly awakening people saying that they want to keep one foot in each world, the material world and the spiritual world. Well, if you really want to go through your process fast, you've got to put both feet in the spiritual world. You've got to be fully dedicated to the process if you want to go through it fast. It's a personal choice. Transfiguration and how you assimilate the energies is a personal choice. There are many people out there who are empathic, and they're feeling the photon belt as we are coming into these higher levels of vibration. Just because somebody feels the photon belt does not mean they're going through the ascension process. You have to integrate that higher vibration. You've got to transfigure the vessel. And there's only one way to do it, and that's by shifting your consciousness from your head to your heart. There's no other way. It's not if, and, or but. You know, those of us who led the way and have been leading the way since, the first real wave happened in, I never thought about this. Dr. Joshua Stone. Joshua Stone was the pebble that hit the water, and the waves began later. What a trip. Wow. The ripples came out. The waves came out later. Thank you, Joshua Stone. Oh, man. What a trip that is. Every time we look at these synchronicities, it's like the bottomless pit, which is the BP. British Petroleum Gulf oil spill. Biblical bottomless pit from Revelation 9. What a trip. Oh, man. Joshua Stone, the first rock that hit the water. The rock of knowledge, the rock of truth. Every time we look at these synchronicities, it's most amazing at how this comes through. It's just like belief systems. BS. We got to cut through that BS. No more bullshit. And that's what I'm saying here in this video, because there's a lot of people that think that you have to eat vegan, you can't eat meat. Well, that's not a truth. I don't know many Native Americans who's been teaching this process just like I teach it that are vegetarian or vegan. So get over that one. To stand on your head isn't gonna do it. To just achieve Shakkti, that's not activation. That's just the beginning. There's a process after that, and it's a process that's going to at first drive you crazy when you go through it, because your ego is going to say, no, I don't want to get lost down there in the heart, and it's going to fight to keep you back in the head. And there's going to be a lot of experiences that goes on in your life that's going to try to pull you back into your head. And it's up to each and every person to decide that they either want to go back into their head, or they really truly want to step into their heart and go through this activation initiation process, go through their ascension mastery, go through their Christing. That's what it is, to become a Christed one. And when you do that, everything shifts, everything changes. All your perceptions, the way you think, what you're willing to tolerate, your integrity, integrity and telling the truth and being what you say you are. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to stand in the highest light. Anything else diminishes your light. It's a choice to go through this process. Yoga might get people there, but yoga ain't gonna. It doesn't end at Shakkti. It's just beginning. And so, anyway, yeah, people can drink alcohol, they can smoke pot, they can eat meat, they can eat junk food, and they can still go through this process. It might be harder for them to go through their process, but they can still go through the process. Now, my family has a natural food store, and something that I've been hearing is a lot of kids are having problems as these higher vibrations are coming through because they're so wired up. And these are the crystal children. These are very, very specialized star seeds that are supposed to be higher vibrations. But one thing that we're noticing is a lot of these kids are getting a lot of salt or minerals. You have to understand that the physical vessel and the energy process of it relating to this physical vessel is just like a battery. We are electromagnetic beings. What is a battery? It's an electromagnet. When you if you really, really want to feel the energies, make sure that you're treating your body like a battery. Put in electrolytes. How does a battery work? A battery has two opposite poles, and it's got an acidic condition on the inside, and you put in electrolytes on top of those that acidic condition, and it allows the energy, the electrons, to flow between the two opposite poles. And that's the same thing that's going on with our body. We have to be grounded in the first place, but if you're really wanting to amp up the vibration that you're feeling coming in from the cosmos, and you're wanting to hold it within the field, and you like that state, keep plenty of water going through you and lots of electrolytes. People have heard me talking about my drinking wine, and a couple of people jumped up and down on me back in 2012 because I said that I use wine to tone down my vibrations in the evenings, which I do. And they said that Doreen Virtue said that if you eat meat, or you are drinking alcohol or smoking pot, that you're not going to get through your ascension process. That's bullshit. Belief system. But think about wine. The very first batteries that they're digging up, now they're finding these batteries all over the place. They're finding them in Peru, they're finding them in Egypt, they're finding them in Central America and China, and they're clay pot batteries. What was the electrolyte in it? Wine. What do you put into your battery when you're wanting to bring the charge, the electrolytes up? Battery acid, sulfuric acid. The body, it works that same way. And when we really want to charge the vessel and hold more and more of these vibrations within the physical body, we're wanting to speed up that transfiguration process. What we want to do is to create a slightly, you really don't want to create an acidic condition because of health reasons, but to have a few glasses of wine does help to number one, tone your vibration down, in the evenings like I use it for, but it also creates a slightly acidic condition which allows that battery effect to work more. I'm not telling anybody they got to drink wine, so don't get me wrong. I'm not telling anybody they got to eat meat. I'm saying what works for any individual is that individual's choice, and you've got to understand that what's right for you is not necessarily right for me. What works for me, all I can do is express it. I've been expressing my ascension process for years now. Well, your body is electromagnetic. It is a battery, and there are ways to make that battery hold more of the cosmic energies, to recharge that battery. Being in the sunlight does it. The sunlight coming from the sun is the same encodings as I was describing in my last video about the field. It's like a fiber optic cable and data packs coming through. And so to be in the sun with your body exposed to the sun helps you absorb more of those encodings, and especially if you've got plenty of water and electrolytes in your system. And that helps to transfigure the body and go through the expansion, ascension initiation process. What else? My Califia almond milk jug. Oh man. Really, the greatest thing a person can do, those things help to transfigure the physical body, but one of the greatest things that a person can do is just to learn to be aware of their consciousness, where we place our intent. Our focus is our consciousness. If you're ever hurt and you're learning hypnosis to dispel the pain, you're placing your focus, breathing into that point of pain. You breathe in through your nose into that point of pain, hold it, take the pain, release it back out through the mouth. What you're doing is you're placing your focus, your consciousness, your mind, the real you, that which isn't necessarily, that which is the eternal you. It isn't necessarily locked up in the brain, and that's a belief system that people have to get over before they can go through their ascension process. You're moving your consciousness to different points. If you're an animal whisperer, what are you doing? You're moving your consciousness into that animal's field, and you're communicating with it. If you're playing in the 4D, like I used to do, I used to have my radar on when I was speeding down the highway, and I could feel the policeman up and over the hill or around the corner behind the trees before I even got there. And I could feel him a couple of miles before I got there, and I'd know he'd be there. That's playing with your fourth dimensional intuition, and you're playing with that connection. That's a connection to all that is, a connection to the field, a connection to all the other consciousness. And so still, even in this level of the game, and you've gone spherical, you're still connecting with all other forms of consciousness like that. You're removing your consciousness from wherever it is. First of all, you got to get it out of the brain to get into the heart. But when you're talking to another, you're either sending out a beam and you're communicating back on that beam, just like the new satellites that they've got out. For communications, they can take a laser beam and shine it on your window, and as you're speaking inside your house, they can listen into your conversations from satellite. That's new spy technology. It's actually been out for about 15 or 20 years, but that's how it's done. That's what you're doing when you're communicating with something. You're sending out a beam of your consciousness to whatever that is, and you're either tapping in and receiving the information, or you're sending messages out. The mullet are jumping. Springtime is here. The water is getting warmer. Next week I'm going to the family farm, and I'll be working up there throughout the summer. But anyway, that's good to see. It's good to see some of the fish coming back after the Gulf oil spill. you're learning in your ascension process what consciousness is, and your various levels of consciousness. And there's many ways of communication, either just as a receiver or a broadcaster sending out a beam like a telephone call direct to another individual or entity out there. You can send out a radar and scan and find other beings that can give you answers to questions. There's a realization there that you are all that is, and that they are you, and you are literally having two different experiences, but the sacredness of it is that they are you knowing that they're having a different experience from you, as you know they are, that they know we or them just having a different experience. And that's what happens in the higher levels of initiations, is you just start having this great respect for all life. And see, that goes back to, I had somebody talk about, I've had a lot of vegan friends that have I've friended as I'm going through my friends list and bringing persons in who follow my work. I have to tell you that it's great to be vegan. I'm very, very proud of everybody that can do that holds that standard. But from me, I spent many years in the Arctic, at the Arctic Circle. And back then, it would get down to 70. The coldest I saw it was 74 degrees below zero with 125 wind chill factor. 125 below zero wind chill factor. And 74 below zero for a couple of weeks. And 30 and 40 below was a norm for 6 months. There's no vegetables that grows there. The sparrows eat meat. The squirrels eat meat. The rabbits eat meat. There's nothing that doesn't eat meat. Here on the Gulf Coast, if you were to go out sailing in one of these sailboats and you were going to be out for a month, you were going to sail to another continent, you couldn't be vegetarian. And so I really appreciate persons that are vegan and vegetarian, but just remember that that's a belief system, and I'm so proud and happy that you're living your belief system in that way. But to be intolerant of others, just realize that that's the only way we're going to get to be peaceful, is to be very tolerant of others. I mentioned the food police that hit me a couple of years ago. I called them the food Nazis, that were saying that you can't go through your ascension process, which I was already going through, and they weren't. When people are very adamant about everybody needs to be just like them, then you're a crusader, and it's just like being a religious crusader, just like what's going on right now in the Middle East with ISIS, and if ISIS is even real. I don't even know what I believe as far as belief system, as far as what's going on anymore with these things, because our government, the United States government, the CIA, has been starting so much of this crap and creating the terrorism, and we always find that anything that starts up, they're behind it. They keep the war machine going. That's how they keep the economy going. That's how they make their money. That's how we keep us on the oil dollar. That's how they keep control, because of terrorism, so-called terrorism. Many times it's not. But the Crusaders back in the Middle Ages, they said that everybody had to be just like them or they would kill them. This has been happening over and over. I don't care whether it's Christians to Muslims, or Muslims to Christians, or so-and-so to the Jews, or the Jews to other people, or whatever it is. And it really, to stand behind a belief system and to think everybody, to be in your brain and think everybody's got to be just like you, is a belief system. And and it's intolerance. And that intolerance is just like the Crusaders. It's just like the religious wars that we've had going on. And from my Archangel Michael side, I wish to speak that truth. The only way we're going to have peace on this planet is for everybody to respect each other in whatever they're doing. Respect their religion, respect their food choices, respect their alcohol or pot smoking choices, respect their political choices, respect their belief systems. Because everybody's got to go through their belief systems to realize that there's limitations. Belief systems are nothing but boxes. They're boxes. They're a closet that you put yourself into that has 4 walls or 6 walls, because you got a floor and ceiling too. And you boxed yourself in. And the only way that, once you've explored that jail cell, once you've explored your box for so long, you've learned every inch, corner, and nook and cranny about it. You know every detail to that box, and the only way that you can expand is by opening the door, and you've got the keys to open the door to your jail cell and let yourself out to go to the next one. That's what belief systems are all about. And after a while, once you're going into your Ascension Initiations, then you're out of the belief systems, because the belief systems are in the brain game. It's not in the heart. It's not in the heart. When you get in the heart, you're dealing with the energies. And the energies, you're realizing that you are connected to all that is. And the process of transfiguration, to get to every single initiation, to get to the next level of Ascension integration, you have to clear up those belief systems, that negativity, the old emotional trauma, the limitations to accepting more light, more higher states of consciousness and vibrations. Every single Ascension initiation is just like that. You're going to be turning the spiritual heat up, and all those impurities, the negativities, are going to rise to the top. And when they do, you've got to cleanse it. You've got to purify it. You've got to release it. You've got to let it go. That's the only way to handle more light. And that's a repeating process over and over and over in the Ascension initiations. And it's going to be for each and every person. Back to the belief systems. When you start getting into when you're coming out of that Ascension column and you're going spherical, when you're leaving that 7th initiation and you're going to the 8th, and you're literally in service to, on a galactic level, to the divine plan, belief systems are a thing of the past. It really is. It's only the energy and the sequence of events of how we change ourselves and how we're changing the reality out there. Because to change the reality out there, we've got to change ourselves. It's not, there's so many people that are out there. I've watched so many, and I must say this about the people in yoga again. Many times, if they don't like their situations, then they delete all the people out there. They change the situation that's out there rather than changing themselves. They're intolerant of the situation out there, which, as you go through your ascension process and you're starting to recognize yourself as those vibrations, you want people to do whatever it is they do and remove yourself from the game, but you're not out there trying to change them. You're letting them go through their process. But there are points in there where you literally have to change yourself. You can't just keep on rearranging the outside of you because you don't like the outside of you without changing the inside, because if you don't change the inside, then the outside keeps on repeating. That's what karma is. And when you get to that 7th initiation, you're past karma, and you're done. You're not playing the karmic games anymore. There's no more us and them. You are in a different level of consciousness where you're out of those belief systems, and you're literally throughout that 7th initiation cleaning up those belief systems so that you can be free of the belief systems before you go spherical, go galactic, become the star you are. Anyway, I'm sure my battery's getting low here, and I've been speaking for about an hour, so I'm gonna say bye for now. Love y'all. See you next time.